SweejAmbience sounds and SweejAmbience volumes both have the ability to play back scatter spots. These are one-shot sounds that spawn at randomly defined times in randomly defined locations around the listener and really serve to bring a sense of life and variation to your ambiences. So in the content browser, let's create a new scatter spot. Audio, SweejTech, Ambience, SweejAmbience scatter spot, and we'll name it SweejAmbience scatter spot, Island Global. And we'll double click to open up the scatter spot editor. Here we can use the plus button to add elements to it. Your sound assets can be MetaSounds or sound waves or sound cues here. And for now we'll just add a single element. We'll add a MetaSound for a kite, which is a large bird of prey. We'll just have a quick look at that. So this is a very simple MetaSound. It picks randomly from this sound array and has some random pitch and volume variation. It's just a one-shot, as the repeat and timing behavior is handled by the scatter spot system. So back in the editor, in terms of timing, we'll set the repeat time from anywhere between 5 and 12 seconds, just for preview purposes. The distance we'll leave at 10,000 to 3,000 units, and the height we'll set at 800 to 1200. At this point, it's worth checking the attenuation on your sound to make sure that it will actually be heard at these distances. So our inner radius is 400 and our fall-off distance is 4000, so that's fine. Even if the scatter spot does spawn at its furthest distance of 3000, we'll still hear it. So now we have our new scatter spot asset. We'll add it to this SweejAmbience sound, which is the global one for the whole island. And we'll check this box, scatter spot assets, and we'll add an array element. We can add multiple scatter spot assets here. For the moment, we're just interested in this one. And before we play, let's open the scatter spot inspector. This shows us any active scatter spot assets and a countdown as to when they will next trigger, this time to next playback. Note how again, like the other SweejAmbience elements, we can also preview scatter spots in the viewport without having to play the game. So we'll just turn on the level editor volume. And you can see here, we're about to hear a kite. So that was a fairly distant one. And there we heard another one slightly closer. With the scatter spot selected in the scatter spot inspector, we do also see a little debug sphere appear in the viewport, but these are quite rare, these kites, and are coming from different directions, so we'll see that more clearly in a moment. Over here in the forest area, I'm going to add another scatter spot, one that's already been prepared. So there's SweejAmbience forest. We can see this has many more elements, some wind gusts and various wildlife for that forest area. So if we go into the forest and we switch the audio back on and select that, we should see some of those debug spheres pop up as the sounds play. There's one, there's two. Now this forest has an attenuation distance of 600, so as we approach, the looping sound for the forest is going to gradually come in over that distance. But when do we want the scatter spots to actually start playing? If they start playing as soon as we hit the attenuation distance, that's going to sound a little odd as we're not actually in the forest yet. And if they didn't start playing until we're actually fully inside the volume, again that might be a bit strange, especially if we're dealing with large areas and long attenuation distances. So to give us some control over this, we have this setting called the scatter spots threshold. This uses the resulting level of the SweejAmbience volume to determine when the scatter spots start. What I'm going to do is dock the two windows next to each other so that we can see them both simultaneously. Now as we move towards the forest from the island global, we can see the weight change and the resulting level change as we pass through that attenuation distance. And simultaneously, we should see the scatter spots start to play as soon as the resulting level reaches 0.4. And there they were. Now what you might notice now is that it takes a while before we hear our first scatter spot. And this is because the repeat times do not start until we pass that threshold. So for example, we're definitely not going to hear this sound within 4 seconds of passing the threshold, or this sound within 6 seconds. So it's going to be quite a while before the scatter spots start to play, which can feel a bit unnatural. So here's where this option comes in: enable pre-warmed scatter spots. When this is enabled, as the threshold is passed, a random time for each element is calculated, anywhere between 0 and the minimum time for the element. This helps to build up the initial set of scatter spots in a way that feels fairly natural and mitigates the problem of having to wait for all those initial repeat times to take effect. So let's hear that in the game. As we move towards the forest, and we pass that threshold, you can see and hear that the scatter spots are much faster to react. Don't forget that you can have multiple scatter spots assigned to each Sweej Ambience actor, so that you can mix and match them throughout your world as appropriate to add life and variety to your ambience.